Waffen-SS volunteers who have accompanied the German units in their more or less organized retreat do not fare any better. The morning of the 30th of April 1945, Königsplatz. The spacious square lying at the feet of the Reichstag could be compared to the lunar landscape. In the previous day, the Soviet infantry, supported closely by numerous tanks, has managed to take control of several buildings in the symbolic enclosure. Königsplatz, located right in the middle of the diplomatic district of Berlin, is hardly recognizable. Every building that surrounds it, with no exception, has been destroyed by artillery and bombing. The Red Army is not willing to lose more tanks and men than what is absolutely necessary. The takeover of the nearby Moltke Bridge and the Ministry of Interior, inside which the shots of the last German defenders still thunder, has resulted high casualties for the Soviet High Command. It's time to strike the final blow. With the Soviet infantry already in the square, the Germans emerge from their craters or, staying behind cover, stick out their weapons pointing towards the brown tide. Hundreds of Soviet soldiers fire their weapons at the mass because they know their superiority in number to the exhausted defenders. Above their heads, dozens of shells fired from the artillery and the tanks, a blast of steel and destruction to protect their colleagues. At dusk, the Red Army's forward lines managed to break into the Reichstag. Outside, the absolute devastation. Hundreds of corpses scattered everywhere lie next to each other in grotesque positions. Every hour of the first day of May, and there is no respite from the fight. Inside the Reichstag, fights take place in the corridors, staircases, and basements. All-out war, room by room. Those who defend the government building know they have their back against the wall because they do not expect mercy from the Russians. There is no other option but to hold out until the end. Fanatism has nothing to do with the ideologies by now. It all comes down to trying to save one's own life, and the one from the wounded or dying friend bleeding side by side with someone who still stands, to shoot at point blank against every Soviet soldier who steps in. Each room has been transformed into a fort, authentic fortress defended by men desperate to survive for one more day. The Red Army pays a high price for the attempting to place the Russian flag on the top of the Reichstag. Any room taken by force translates into a bloodbath for Stalin's troops. Throughout the whole day, despite the efforts of the Red Army to bend its eternal enemy once and for all, wild brawls take place behind the damaged Reichstag walls. Finally, after the sunrise of the 2nd of May, the leading German officer, General Werling, signed the capitulation.